Welcome to BRAINELM Labs, the boring investor channel. Our goal here is to make you better aware of personal finance and related topics. Today we're going to talk about something powerful, but, well, something that's often overlooked. It's this idea that the best way to build wealth isn't exciting at all. Actually, it's pretty boring. So let's dive in. This quote, it just nails the big conflict we all face when we invest. We are absolutely wired to chase excitement, right? We hear about that hot new stock everyone's talking about and we want in. But all the data, all the evidence points to a totally different path to success. One that's a lot less thrilling, but, way more profitable. So the real question is, how do we avoid falling into that hot stock trap? Okay, first things first, let's really understand what this trap is. It's this belief that if we just do enough research or if we follow the right gurus, we can consistently pick the winning stocks. But here's the crazy part. Even the highest paid pros on Wall Street, for the most part, can't beat the plain old market. Look at this number, 90%. It really says it all. You take any long stretch of time, say 10 or 15 years, and a staggering 90% of professional fund managers, they fail to do better than a simple, boring S&P 500 index fund. I mean, think about it. These people have entire teams of analysts, supercomputers, all of it, and they still can't beat an automated, boring investment. So why is that? Well, it comes down to this. On one side, you've got the active fund manager. They're constantly buying and selling, trying to time the market just right. And that whole process comes with some pretty high fees. But on the other side, you've got a simple index fund. It doesn't try to be clever, it just buys all the stocks in a big index like the S&P 500 and holds them for an incredibly low cost. That 90% failure rate we just saw, well, it proves that for most of us, adding complexity and high fees is just a losing game. So let me ask you this. If the experts can't win by trying to be clever, what chance do we really have? It turns out the real enemy here isn't a lack of knowledge. It's our own emotions. And this leads us to what might be one of the single most important ideas in personal finance, something called the behavioral gap. This right here, this is the real wealth killer. Let's imagine an index fund returns 10% in 1 year. That's what the investment did. The behavioral gap explains why the average person invested in that exact same fund might only get, say, 5% or maybe even lose money. So see, it's not the investment that failed, it was the investor's timing, and that timing was driven by the two most powerful emotions in the market, fear and greed. To really make this hit home, let's walk through a super common scenario. We're going to follow an investor who gets caught in this emotional cycle and see exactly how things can go so wrong. All right, so let's meet emotional Erin. She's watching the news and hears about some hot new tech stock that's just going through the roof. That fear of missing out, FOMO, it kicks in hard. So she buys right near the peak when the price is super high. And then, well, the market does what it always does eventually. It dips. The stock falls 20%, all the news stories turn negative, Erin starts to panic, she sells, thinking, phew, I'm cutting my losses. But what she's really done is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. She bought high and she sold low, locking in a loss that she can never get back. Okay, so if our own emotions are the enemy, how in the world do we fight back? Well, thankfully, the solution is incredibly simple. You don't need a crystal ball or some secret stock picking formula. You just need a different approach, a much more boring one. Let's take a look. The entire solution really rests on these two simple pillars. First up is automation. This means setting up an automatic transfer from your bank account to your investment account every single month, no matter what the market is doing. It just happens. This takes you and your decisions out of the picture. And second is simplicity. You just invest that money into one or maybe two broad, low-cost index funds. And that's it. Seriously, you just buy the whole market and let it do its thing. Now, let's meet boring Ben. Ben does the total opposite of Erin. He sets up an automatic $200 investment into an index fund on the first of every month. It's just a thing that happens. So when the market goes up, he buys. When the market goes down, guess what? He buys. He's not watching the financial news. He's not checking his portfolio every day. He just lets the system work. By basically removing himself from the day-to-day decisions, he avoids that behavioral gap completely and actually gets the market's real returns over time. I love this quote because it just illustrates the whole philosophy so perfectly. Think about it. Your portfolio, it's like a tree. You don't go out and dig it up every week to check on the roots, right? Of course not. You plant it, you give it time, and you let it grow strong all on its own. Your investments, they need that exact same kind of patience. So, after all that, what's the one simple lesson we should take away from this? Here at BRAINELM Labs, we always like to boil it down to one clear, actionable thing you can do. And here it is. Your goal is not to become some brilliant market timer or a genius stock picker. Your real goal is to remove yourself, your emotions, your fear, your greed from the whole process. And the most powerful way to do that is to set up an automatic investment into a low-cost, broad market index fund. Do it today. And you know what? It doesn't matter if it's just $25 a month. The habit is so much more important than the amount. By embracing this, kind of boring approach, you're putting yourself on the proven path to building real, sustainable wealth. You're just letting the market do all the hard work for you.
Thank you so much for watching.